What famous person did you regret meeting because they were an ass? I've met lots of celebrities due to my job and where I've worked. Most are just normal people. One that does stand out to me though is Barbra Streisand. She was staying in a hotel I used to work at and wanted a set of small steps leading up to her bed to be made so her dog could get up there. She also wanted a fresh roll of turf brought every day for her dog to piss shit on. On the flip side though, Britney Spears is an utter sweetheart who comes across like she just wants peace and to be left alone. She used to like having flowers delivered to her room so she could make displays etc. They were pretty good. Barbra Streisand. She wanted a set of small steps leading up to her bed to be made so her dog could get up there. She's cloned that dog twice at $50,000 a time. No wonder she treats it like glass. It's worth more than most people's cars. No. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't say disappointing as I never was eager to meet him, but Drake. Drake was just unprofessional and egotistical when I worked with him both times. This was before he got big. First award show type level. He's told me to fuck off directly and I watched his mom calm him down from a tantrum. This is the most in character story I've read this entire thread. Jared Leto. I worshipped him as a teenager. Mainly from seeing him in Requiem for a Dream and My So-Called Life and his band. But he was the most pretentious and arrogant person in real life. Never meet your heroes. I've heard that so often. The way he talks on a lot of news shows never really sat right with me. Then he became a cult leader and I noped out. I met James Brown back in the 80s when I lived in Vale. The man was dissatisfied with everything and generally drunk. Absolute flip side was meeting Mr. Rogers when I was at Pitt. That man was the real deal. You know the story of Mr. Rogers getting his car stolen. Word got around and the thieves found out. Next day, the car was returned with a note of apology. Nobody fucks with Mr. Rogers. He expected my seat on a plane. He was our local news anchor. Actually said, I may look familiar. I said, you're a merchant banker? The people with the smallest claim to fame are often the most egotistical about it. Jared Leto. Hit on my girlfriend at the time. And called me fat. His brother Shannon was super nice though. To be fair. I am fat. But I knew that already. LOL. Cannot wait to see all of these answers cut and pasted on a BuzzFeed article. How else am I going to get my 246, 633 unrelated reaction gifs between each story? I used to work in a posh hotel in Canada, vague on purpose, and I had met many famous people during my time there. Most were forgettable interactions honestly. But one stands out as the absolute worst. Chevy Chase. He is a trash human being. He was totally miserable and insulting to all the staff. And we treated him with nothing but professional respect and courtesy. If I ever meet him again I'll tell him to his face what a colossal piece of shit he is. I can't watch his movies since. For the record, the best celebrity guest for me was Dave Grohl. He's an awesome guy. Everyone always has something nice to say about Dave Grohl. Nobody ever has had something nice to say about Chevy Chase. I met a local weatherman from my neck of the woods. Twice. People love this dude on social media. But the both times I've seen him, he was a total asshole. On the flip side, I met Emilio Estevez at work. He was cool. Where'd you work? A famous soap opera star in my country. He came into the Dairy Queen I was working at. I didn't know who he was and my co-worker started hyperventilating and went to the back. The guy was rude. And when I handed him his cone he said, "Is that all?" Exclamation point, like he expected extra because he was famous. Yeah dude. If you order one scoop you get one scoop. Didn't find out he was famous until he left and my co-worker came back to the front. This is a Dairy Queen, sir. Not a drama queen. Deleted. That doesn't surprise me about Beyonce's dad. Her fans know he's a dick. From treating her mom like shit to pretending he's the reason she's famous. I was the ass. I saw Don Cheadle at an airport and was thinking about Ocean's 11 and said to my friend, "Dude, it's Bernie Mac," and he looked back and said, "No, I'm the other black guy from Ocean's 11, but at least you liked the movie." Damn. You fucked up, LOL. He handled that pretty well. Reggie Jackson. He was a childhood idol of mine. I got the opportunity to get a photo with him at some booth at a trade show called Internet World years ago during the dot-com boom. No one was in line to get pictures with him, so I walked up to get a photo while he was apparently trying to get the girls in the next booth over to sleep with him. He acted all bugged that I asked for a photo, even though that is what he was hired for, and rolled his eyes. I guess he thought I cock-blocked him by just showing up in line to get a picture. I tossed the picture in the trash once I got it. Later that day I got a ball signed by Steve Garvey, who was super nice. He replaced Reggie Jackson as my hero that night. Most interactions involving Reggie Jackson that I've read about have been negative. That said, my dad used to work as a mechanic, and I'm not sure if he worked on Reggie's car, but he got to speak with him for a short time. Said he was a nice enough guy. My mom was pregnant with me at the time, and he asked him if he could write an autograph for me, which he was happy to do. I still have it. Just on a regular cardstock piece of paper. It says Redditing at Work 5. Good luck, Mr. October. He also met Ricky Henderson a few times through the same place, and my dad loves Ricky Henderson. Says the Man of Steel is always cool and pleasant. I've got a couple signed cards from him. Deleted. Probably only for British people, but my boyfriend saw Peter Kay with his bodyguard in a chippy. Didn't say anything but elbowed his brother. Peter Kay saw him and said, "Yeah, it is me. Now fuck off." Pretty harsh considering my boyfriend was only 11 at the time. Prince Andrew. Spent a lot of time around him about 10 years ago, as working at private social events he attended. The guy is a total prick. Maybe he would have been nicer to you if you were younger. I met Shane Dawson at a restaurant I used to work at. He used to come in a few times a year with his fiancée and in-laws. He's a dick, lol. None of my servers liked him or wanted to serve his family. And I damn near had to fight some little girls off the property because they would not leave without seeing him. When I was 6 or 7, Hulk Hogan pretend WrestleMania chased me out of a boardroom I wasn't supposed to be playing around in at Little League Complex, Cross Bayou in Pinellas County. Anyways, the story is my dad was coaching a game for my brother's team. I went to go sneak around in an empty room. Hulk's son played baseball there too, and he must have seen me sneak in the room. I was hiding under the front desk when he came in with his Hulk voice. "Who's sneaking around in here?" And 7-year-old me nearly had a heart attack. He chased me out of the room while I snuck out, acting like he couldn't see me. Looking back at it, you can tell he was just having fun with a kid and his famous persona. But at the time I was absolutely traumatized and nobody believed my story. I met Will Ferrell at a movie premiere for a holiday movie. After the movie premiere there was a meet and greet, and the actors were lingering on the main floor. I introduced myself just to tell him what's up and that I enjoyed the movie. He looked at me with a side glance, and stated, "Get away from me." I was 12 years old at the time. I've heard that his entire personality is his characters. Like there's literal co-stars who say his shtick never gets turned off. Bobby Flay. We paid hundreds of dollars to go to a fancy event he was participating in. Waited for a long ass time to just meet him and say hi. He looked at us and walked away. Was a dick about it too. Ace Frehley of Kiss. It was at a rock and roll TV movie memorabilia convention in the mid-90s. Shortly before the Kiss reunion. And he clearly didn't want to be there. He didn't talk to fans. Didn't say hi. Hell, he didn't even look at you when you came to his table. He just signed whatever you placed in front of him and then you were hustled away. On the other hand, Adam Batman West was at the next signing table and he was a totally cool guy. Shook hands. Chatted with everyone. Signed whatever we wanted. Posed for pics. Etc. Meeting him more than made up for Ace's surly, hungover douchebaggery. Every time this thread comes up, James Corden ends up taking it over. "Hey James. You won't remember me, but me and my friends sat at a table next to you and Harry Styles plus some others in Manchurian Legends in London's Chinatown about 6 years ago. We didn't bother you, but you were a massively entitled cunt who yelled and treated the waitstaff like shit, and when one of my party politely suggested you calm down, you got really aggressive and threatening, in a chubby way. Like a boozy panda. So my question is this, why did Harry seem so cool while you were such a massive throbbing bell?" And this is from his Emma thread. Literally hundreds of posts like this from X, fans, staff and other actors. Diana Ross. I worked in a health club in a hotel across the street from a stadium when I was young. She came in, looked at the pool, which was a really decent lap pool, and said, "My bathtub is bigger than this." I replied, "Go back to your bathtub then." She wanted me fired instantly. HR told me to go home for 2 days because if they fired everyone she wanted fired, the hotel wouldn't have any staff. I replied, "Go back to your bathtub then. You rock." I shit you not. My mom met Bill Cosby once. She said that he kept hitting on her friend. They told me that when he was a kid, he met Bill Cosby. He was accompanied by his grandma. So Cosby told him a lewd joke that he was going to get with his grandma. As a kid, he was very confused by what Cosby meant. Looking back, it all made sense now. When my best friend was 17, she got snuck into the grand opening of the Playboy Club at the Palms. She got hit on by both a drunken Owen Wilson and a drunken James Franco that night. The difference was that when she clarified her age, Owen was like, "Oh shit, never mind," and left her alone, and James was like, and tried to give her his hotel room key. Owen Wilson was across the aisle from me on a plane just over a year ago. As we were seated and others were boarding, so guy stopped, asked if he was who he was, and then asked for a selfie while 90% of the plane was waiting to board and Owen was in the window seat. He was nice enough and told the guy maybe after the flight since people were boarding. I would never have said anything to him. I recalled he attempted suicide and just hoped he was happier now. Deion Sanders. I interviewed him at an NFL military event like 8-9 years ago and he was a prick the whole time. He threw my lav mic on the ground when he was done instead of placing it in my outstretched hand. I was also active duty military at the time and the event was on a ship. Hey Sanders. If you read it and see this. Fuck you dude. Fuck you. Deion Sanders. Yeah, but he was also capable of throwing mics dickishly to the ground at MLB events. You gotta respect that kind of versatility. I met Russell Crowe one night at a bar. By accident. It was an old shitty, smoky dive bar. I just happened to sit down right next to him. I didn't recognize him at first, but I asked if I could bum a cigarette from him and he gave me one. That's when I knew who he was. He wasn't an asshole. He was actually pretty nice. But I could absolutely tell he wanted to be left alone. I smoked the cigarette and left him alone. Edit. I met 50 Cent at a signing for the vodka he was promoting. He was super nice. He didn't say much. I brought a couple of books I have that he wrote. He took the time to open each one to the title page and sign them. Probably my favorite celebrity experience. If you had said, "Oh my god, it's Russell Crowe," he would have beat the shit out of you in front of his tugboat. Scott Disick and Kourtney Kardashian. We met them in Cancun. They were snobby and stuck up. This was right after Mason was born. They had no interaction with Mason and the nanny did everything. They were super offended that not everyone at the airport knew who they were. Edit. I am not sure why people asking me if this surprises me. The question did not ask if it was surprising, and no, it wasn't. Scott Disick was an asshole. I don't believe you. When I was working at Best Buy back in 2003 to 2009, Robin Williams came into our store and purchased every single copy of Mrs. Doubtfire. He then whipped out a Sharpie and signed all 50+ copies for the employees at the store. He then stuck around telling jokes and just hanging out with the staff. I just wanted to share. He was def the best actor interaction I've had personally. So nice. Rest in peace. Jared Leto. I sat next to him on a flight from Monterrey, Mexico back in 2018. Absolute asshole. So far. Dude has gotten most mentions of anyone. Next level. Met Morgan Freeman at a Bed Bath & Beyond. He was shopping for a teapot on a lower shelf and stood up right when I almost walked into him. And I was like, wow. You look just like Morgan Freeman. And he, without skipping a beat, was like, if I was Morgan Freeman, wouldn't I be in Hollywood or something? And the voice made me now like 99.9% certain it's him. And I was like, I guess you would. Enjoy your time here. And X200B. I don't regret meeting him and don't think he was an ass. Just thought it was so Morgan Freeman of him to have a line like that to make you wonder if you met Morgan Freeman or just a guy that likes to act like a character in a bunch of his movies. Honestly, that's a fun interaction, emo. Yeah, you'll hear the James Corden one every time this is posted on Reddit. That AMI has to come up. https://www.google.com URL SAR equals T and source equals webinar CT equals J and URL equals HTTPS, AMP. Reddit. Ariyama comments BQY5ZF. I am James Corden alongside Ben Winston and 5 and VED equals to a Hukirja 0I668 Kvahujet 4KHT2XBX4 Kfjag Kibak and USG equals AOVOR 2 Ajate K 965 Klkbfar. Got. I miss Craig Ferguson so much. The day he left and CBS decided to replace him with this unfunnier shat was a sad day indeed. Met Tiger Woods when I was 15. He slapped my hat out of my hand. A different golfer whom I didn't know ran up, picked up my hat and asked if his signature would be okay. I agreed, but I don't know who he was or what his name was, but my grandpa was pleased upon seeing it. Bill Nye. Meet him when I was like 10 years old. He was a complete asshole. You're about the fourth person saying this. Damn. Will Smith was a total asshole when I met him at least. I didn't say anything to him, but he openly ignored anyone who just wanted to say hi and had this attitude of oh, I'm richer than you. Conversely, I ran into Robert Downey Jr. once while leaving Target and he was so damn cool. I remember I stupidly exclaimed, "Whoa, you're Robert Downey Jr." And he just turned and smiled wide, then said yep, pat me on the shoulder and headed on in. Edit. Some context with Will Smith. It was at a football game for one of kids. He acted snobby. Walked in front of people. Didn't say excuse me. Acted like he owned the place. Didn't really cheer or say anything either. Maybe I caught him on the wrong day or something and he's probably a nice guy, but that was my one and only experience with Will Smith. I think because of everything Robert Downey Jr. had gone through, it really grounded him. He's such an awesome dude all around emo. Pete Rose. Little kids wanted his autograph and he was charging them $5 each in the early to mid 70s. Celebrity story with a twist. But it's not mine. When I was in the Marines, one of my sergeants told me how he and his buddies were celebrating his bachelor party in Vegas when they saw Rob Riggle in a bar, and remember, Rob Riggle is a Marine Reserve officer. So of course they were excited to meet him. But he seemed a little dismissive and told them, "I've got some things to do. But I'll be back," and he left. And logically they figured he just blew them off. He showed back up 30 minutes later and bought them all drinks and talked with them for a bit. Kurt Vonnegut. I had to get in touch with him frequently for work, at a non-profit, for several years. He was never once even vaguely polite. So it goes. I met Dolly Parton when I was 14. She was exactly as nice and sweet as the internet makes her out to be. I met G.W. Bush and Ted Koppel when Bush was running for president in 2000. He was actually a really friendly, laid-back guy. Koppel looked like a little person and was an ass. A friend of mine met Dolly at a hotel. My friend was rushing to catch the elevator and a tiny hand whipped out to hold the door. A voice shouted, "Hurry up, honey," in a sweet, joking way, and my friend was shocked to see Dolly goddamn Parton as she entered the elevator. They made small talk. My friend said it was the best day. Bill Nye the Science Guy. I was on a field trip in middle school and our teacher saw him. She politely asked if he could say something to us or just say hi. We always watched him in science class. He told her to fuck off and basically berated her for bothering him and asking him to speak to a bunch of kids. I'm not sure if he was just having a bad day, but it was not the best experience as a child. This is the third comment I've seen about Bill Nye. How disappointing. Ray Romano met him at a carnival like 12 years ago and he was a complete dickhead. I asked someone who was within proximity if it was indeed Ray Romano. And he hears me ask, then turns around and says, "Oh hey look, it's Ray Romano," with a sarcastic tone, and my father said you don't have to be rude, and his reply was, "Your kid doesn't have to talk to fucking strangers either. Good job dad," and he walked off just babbling bullshit to himself. Kinda shitty since I spent some years watching his damn show. He should have responded with, "Would you like to fuck me, Ray? Would you like it if I pulled my pants down right here, eh?" Lars Ulrich. Total a shat. James Hetfield. Pretty nice guy. Jimbo Wallace. Low-key chill and polite. Sean Penn. Kind of a dick. But kind of cool when he was still drinking. Robin Wright. Very polite. Mina Suvari. Very quiet and polite. George Lucas, also very quiet and polite. Kid Koala. Super humble and funny. Carlos Santana. Asin. He even sent his kids to public school. Nothing stuck up about that guy at all. That's cool about Carlos Santana. I know a man who was a session guitarist for him many years ago. And I believe they are still very good friends to this day. This guy has a couple guitars and a lot of memorabilia all signed by Carlos, which was amazing to see. As well as albums of photos of them all. I think they played at Wembley together. Unsure of the exact year. But he told me Carlos is an absolute gentleman. Bumped into the late great Alan Rickman in London. He was just walking down Oxford Street. I said to myself. I thought quietly. That's Alan fucking Rickman. She said. No, it's not. He stopped. Turned around with a massive smile and said it really is. He was obviously in a rush but was still polite and charming. Thank you for so many upvotes. As I said, I was extremely charming and nice despite clearly being in a rush. My soul of the time never got over the experience. I loved all of his movies. I think The Potters succeeded so well largely due to Snape. However, Galaxy Quest will always be my favorite Al role. Followed very closely by Truly Madly Deeply. Bill Cosby. Before all his rappiness was publicly known. He came to the restaurant in DC where I was a hostess. I came to get him for his table and he said, "Did you need a college degree for this job?" No. Man. Have you never met a server before? Justin Bieber. This was circa 2009 to 2010-ish. He had a meet and greet for a select number of fans, mostly teenage girls, in which I won tickets through the radio. As a 14-year-old girl obsessed with JB, I was so excited to be in the same room and take a picture with him. He was incredibly rude with every question asked, and when it came time to take pictures he said no one was allowed to talk to him. His demeanor totally rubbed me the wrong way, but his concert later that night was amazing, so I decided that he may be a shit human but he is a damn good performer. My cousin met him at a Denny's in Orlando, FL. They were eating there. My uncle went up to his security. Said it was her birthday. And asked if my cousin could meet him. They told him that he would come over after he was done eating. He did come over. Sat down with them for a while. And wished her a happy birthday. However, he wouldn't let anybody take pictures with him. He visited with anybody in the restaurant that wanted to speak with him. Besides the picture thing. They said he was very nice. I guess it depends when you meet them. This was about 4 or 5 years ago though. He's matured a little since 2010. I hope. Haha. I met Keanu Reeves in a frozen yogurt bar in Westwood, Brentwood. He's nice as the internet says he is. Wanted to take a picture with him. But figured I'd respect the man and let him eat his yogurt. When my boyfriend was a baby. His mom was flying back from Spain in first class and had to use the bathroom. Keanu Reeves held my boyfriend while his mom used the bathroom. Not an ass. But I saw Tim Curry at a restaurant right after buying tickets to see Spamalot. My mother sort of squeaked. And he looked up like a deer in the headlights. We left him alone, although my mother kept staring. And ordered our meal. He just seemed too stressed and like he was wishing we would go away. We ended up asking to have our food boxed up to go before it even came out. We didn't mean to ruin his afternoon. I met Bill Nye as a kid. He was signing autographs at the Science Center and seemed really exhausted and sad. It's weird. Seeing a famous person face to face and not seeing him in character put a lot of things into perspective for me as a child. Many years later I shook hands with Grant from Mythbusters. He was genuinely cool as fuck. Was sad to hear he died. Gene Simmons. Neat to say that I got to spend a couple of days hanging with him. But he was an ass. Nikki Sixx is friends with Simmons. In Nikki Sixx's book The Heroin Diaries he says, "I love Gene Simmons. But no one loves Gene Simmons like Gene Simmons loves Gene Simmons. If I ever meet him I expect he would be an arrogant ass." Met Tony Hawk once. Dude was awesome. His business manager had come into my shoe repair shop. When I saw his business card that said Hawk Enterprises I said, "Well, there are a couple ways you can pay me." Face rolling on the floor laughing. Face rolling on the floor laughing. When he came back in to pick his stuff up, he brought Tony with him. He was great. After they left he ran back in my shop with a signed picture saying "You've got soul." He apologized a handful of times because he thought he had a skate deck he could sign for me. But his nephew must have taken the last one. Was almost 10 years ago. Picture is obviously still on my wall. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Tony Hawk seems like the coolest guy. I love his Instagram Twitter posts where he just shows up to a skate park and asks them to do tricks. Everyone knows his name but not everyone recognizes him. I have been training my kids who Tony Hawk is, in case they ever randomly meet him. Don't embarrass the family by not recognizing him. They can embarrass the family name in other ways, but it is unacceptable to embarrass it by not knowing who Tony Hawk is. Tony is a national treasure. Put him up there with Dolly Parton. Paul McCartney was a knob. I'm joking. He was fucking amazing and made me feel like I was the famous one. My late uncle was a London cab driver for decades. The last few years he was in semi-retirement, just driving a couple of half days a week. But he was contemplating fully retiring. One day he picked up a customer in central London. And when he looked in the rearview mirror it was none other than Paul McCartney. He said Paul was so friendly and polite and respectful. And they chatted the entire short drive. After he dropped McCartney off he decided that was the perfect time to retire as a cabbie. So he could have him as his final customer after decades on the job. Edit, or to correct fix. Not myself but my mother. She met John Wayne. My mother is very tall and has always been taller than most people. Her school was invited to meet John Wayne while he was filming a movie nearby. Each grade level was grouped together and the younger kids got to go first. My mother, who was almost as tall as her teacher in 3rd grade, stepped up to Mr. Wayne and he yelled at her. Accused her of moving in line with the younger kids just to see him sooner. This grown-ass man yelled and cussed at a 7-year-old girl. He was an ass. The comedian Gallagher. Saw him at a small theater. I knew the owner. And having a drive-through espresso store I had given her a gift card for him. As we were entering, he was there with her. She was taking tickets. She pointed me out and told him I'd sent the gift card. He said to me, "Do you think I'm so poor I can't buy coffee?" Dick. On the other hand, Captain Phil from Deadliest Catch came to town, touring grocery stores with his own coffee line. Bought a bag. Met him. Gave him a gift card. Drove through my store the following morning. I got a very excited call from my staff. He was great to them. Rip Capt Phil. Kiss my ass. Failed prop comedian. I was sitting, naked, in a Korean day spa steam room when a guy who looked just like Lawrence Fishburne walked in and sat down across from me. I was there with 2 friends and we were talking and you could tell we were all like, is that? Could it really be Morpheus? We just kept talking and he was listening to whatever story we were reminiscing about and then he smiled at something we said and we saw the tooth gap. We all played it cool though and didn't say anything until after he left. 10/10 nice guy to hang out naked with. Met the actor who plays Jaime Lannister as I was walking to work. I stopped when I saw him and so did he. I said, "You're that guy." His response, "I am," with a big wide grin. We both then walked on and that was that. Was pretty cool. He was probably just happy that you didn't call out his name and get everyone around to stare at him. I haven't had any asshole celebs interactions. But John Malkovich and McLovin both came through my place of work about a decade ago. And both were super chill. McLovin got recognized by a few people and stood there and took photos. Signed shit. And small talked with whoever approached him. Even though he showed up alone and in glasses and clearly hanging by himself and trying to chill. John Malkovich was dressed in all white and had a shaved head. Looked kinda like a monk or something. And was very calm and low-key. When my brother was working as a chef, he made dinner for John Malkovich and his party one night. Malkovich insisted on coming back to the kitchen and complimenting the chef and the line personally. I met Danny DeVito and when I said let's leave him alone he invited me over for a picture. His hot assistant took it. I made it my profile picture on FB. I like how there are about half a dozen posts in this which celebrity is an arsehole thread specifically mentioning that Danny DeVito is not at all an arsehole but really great. We should have this in every AskReddit thread. What home repair jobs can you save money by doing yourself? IDK, but this one time I saw Danny DeVito at Starbucks and he did a selfie with me and then bought me a frappuccino. George Brett of the Kansas City Royals. My dad literally made my middle name Brett after that man. He is such a dick. Anyone in North Texas knows about Michael Irvin. He literally cannot walk into a place of business without informing everyone else he's Michael Irvin, retired football star. 3 times at Bed Bath & Beyond he's done this. I've personally witnessed he walks in and shouts, "Hi everyone, I'm Michael Irvin, how about them Cowboys?" I dealt to him and his son at a casino I worked at. He wasn't a dick, but he made sure everyone knew it was him. It was a $15 blackjack table. LOL. I sat next to Rosario Dawson on a flight from LA to Austin while she was shooting Death Proof. I didn't recognize her and she kept trying to strike up conversation while I was studying for a Cal 2 final. I was an arsehole to her until it came out that she was Rosario Dawson. Then we had a very pleasant conversation. I regret meeting her because I am the ass. I met Charles Dance when he was checking into the same hotel in Atlanta late in the night with no one around us. I told him he was incredible as Tywin. And he asked me to fuck off. Oh well, man with light skin tone shrugging. I had the opposite experience with him. He was very nice and friendly with me. A good one that happened to me. I once saw Jamie Hyman at Comic-Con back around 2014-ish. I kind of caught his eye and near whispered "Are you?" He coyly put his index finger up to his lips, said SHHHHH and disappeared back into the crowd. And X200B. Best day ever. All of the people on Mythbusters seem just perpetually happy and positive. Adam does a YouTube series now and he just never appears truly mad or bothered. Damn it, now I'm depressed. Grant passed so young. Not an ass, Norman Reedus. I met him at a TWD con in Philly. And the line to get photos with him got super backed up. I think they were having tech issues or something. All of a sudden we hear a loud "fuck this" from in the booth. Norman storms out and disappears for a solid 10 minutes. When he comes back, he's carrying a stack of pizza boxes. And went up and down the line, personally handing out slices of pizza to fans and apologizing for the delay. Legendary. Friend of mine works cons and interacted with Reedus a lot and this doesn't surprise me a bit. LOL. Demi Moore, Annette Haven, Dennis Miller, Troy Aikman were all fucking useless. Wilford Brimley and Joe Pesci were the coolest celebrities I've ever interacted with. I'm happy to hear Pesci was cool, he's one of my favorite actors. Almost 25 years ago, before he was big, I hung out with Eminem. He was super laid back. But then again, it was before the fame. He sat in the backseat and was freestyling about Haley while drinking a huge bottle of St. Ides and passing joints. Not me personally. But my dad once played ping pong against Leo DiCaprio like 20 years ago and still hates him to this day because he lost in a game to 7 when he thought it was a game to 11. He's felt scammed for decades now. LOL. Norman Reedus is amazing. I've met him a few times at MegaCons. For a picture he put his arm around my son and said "Come here buddy." A friend of mine gave him a t-shirt she had made at another meet and greet. He took his off and put it on right there. He kept pointing at her and yelling "Hey" for the rest of the convention too. This makes me happy. I loved him in Boondock Saints. And I'm glad he's as personable and kind to his fans as he appears to be. D. Billy Ray Cyrus was the most professional music artist I got to work with on a music video set. Our director was a complete ass but Billy didn't pay any attention. Was just "You got it man. Whatever I can do to help." I met Post Malone in 6 a.m. in Vegas. I was cashing out while he was getting a little block of 100s. One of his posse noticed I was staring, told me to ask for a picture. I asked and he said sure. I took out my phone and was gonna take one of him like a complete weirdo. Post quickly said to come over and get in the picture. He seemed just as cool as you see on TV and a genuinely good guy. Late to this but poorly sure. It was mid-90s in Nice City and wife and I were at a very popular Asian restaurant with a huge wait. He walks in with an entourage and tries to worm his way ahead of everyone else. He tried to play the "Don't you know who I am?" card. Hostess was having none of it. Said "Don't know. Don't care. You'll wait." They left in a huff. He walks in with an entourage and tries to worm his way ahead of everyone else. I think you meant tried to weasel his way ahead. Tom Welling. Saw a Smallville panel at Comic-Con years ago. You could hear him laughing on his mic when some kid was stumbling through his words when it was his turn to ask Tom a question. Everyone in that room heard it. Turned me off to him in a quickness. I worked at Whole Foods in NYC for many years and therefore have an aston of celeb stories. The biggest assholes. 1. Will Arnett. 2. Jessica Alba. 3. Louis C.K. The nicest ones, even though you didn't ask. 1. Harvey Keitel. 2. Emilia Clarke. 3. Steve Nash. You expect Will Arnett to be nice in a $3,000 suit? Come on. Not Gene Wilder. He was everything you'd hope and expect. Wayne Brady screamed at my sister for taking his picture in Vegas. She wasn't taking his picture. He walked into the shot. He freaked out screaming that he wanted her to show him that she was deleting it. She was trying to explain she didn't even know he was there and showed him the picture that only had a sliver of him in it when she looked through the shots. He continued to berate her about not respecting his privacy, in the middle of the strip. She was in tears apologizing for doing nothing wrong and he never acknowledged he was in the wrong and continued to badmouth her as he stormed away. Can't watch him anymore. This one hurt me a lot as a longtime Who's Line fan. Don't mind me. Just skimming the comments to make sure my favorite celebrities aren't on here. Deleted. This is going to get buried. But Michael Penner. Do you know who I am type of dude? Name dropping all over the place. Yeah, and he's also a Scientologist, so Jeff Goldblum is genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met. I assisted on a photo shoot with him and he remembered my name the entire time. And as the night ended he thanked me for helping. Got a great photo with him too. If you ever meet him, talk to him about his music. He lights up. Bjork was very sweet, albeit shy and weary of me at first. Super smiley though and took the initiative to shake my hand. I am friends with a few of the musicians who played with her on a recent tour. Kevin Bacon was great in our short interaction as well. My fiancé is a chef at a pretty prominent boutique hotel restaurant in Philly. He says the two worst guests were Ariana Grande, made not one but two servers cry, and the Rolling Stones. The best guests were Sylvester Stallone, Pink, Lady Gaga, and Guy Fieri. Bill Nye the arsehole guy. Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins is pretty rude and dismissive of his fans. I've met him several times and a couple times he's been nice but the rest he just acts like a straight up pompous dick. Russell Brand told me to fuck off once. I don't have an ass experience but I once ran into Keanu Reeves and the man could not have been nicer. Just thought people should know the man is truly a gem. Idina Menzel. I was going to see her show Thing on Broadway and I was near the stage hall waiting to get in line. And she was late and ran to the door and pushed me out of the way and said move in such a nasty tone. Not my fault you were late for your call time. She could have also just asked nicely but she pushed a random 15-year-old girl. Never liked her after. Adele Dazeem. Funny because a lot of answers are local personalities. Same with me, local radio guy. Quite the douchebag. However, if you ever get a chance to meet Batista, do it. Dude is fucking awesome. Nice. And gentle. Remember when Reese Witherspoon had that whole drunken "do you know who I am" video scandal that was an issue for about 5 minutes? Well, if so, congratulations. You've seen the real her. One of her movies was filmed at the museum where I worked and she was a horror from the moment she stepped on set. She touched priceless artifacts. Complained about everything. Wouldn't stop eating and drinking around the exhibits after repeated reminders. And just had a nasty attitude in general. I may have taken out my frustration by stealing and photocopying her script one day and posting it online. Mark Wahlberg did an appearance at his brother's restaurant. He refused to take pictures with anyone taller than him. Now this I can believe. My random celeb story. I used to work in NYC's fashion district and before work one morning, I stopped to sit on the stairs of my building. Tim Gunn comes racing out of the building and kicks me, practically trips over me. He was horrified and very apologetic, lol. This one scared me, he seemed so nice, I didn't want him to be an ass. I've somehow had a few chance encounters with celebrities over the years. The only one that was kind of a dick, and it's so in character that it would probably worse had he not been, was Jay Cutler. Angelina Jolie went to the premiere of A Might Heart and told her at the after party she made a beautiful film. She literally just stared at me. Met Brad shortly after. Said the same thing. He grabbed my shoulder and said, "Thanks, brother. That means a lot. No wonder they broke up." Yep, Brad Pitt is cool. He came into our studio to do some scanning for Benjamin Button. And everyone said he was great to work with. Deleted. I met Emma Roberts a few years ago. What a nasty little person. For someone who's C-list at best. She's kind of a notorious cunt. There is a guy from EastEnders, a British soap, who lived across the road from me. He came into the local chippy, I know so British, and he skipped the queue and when asked to go to the back of the line. He said, "Do you know who I am?" The lady looked at him and said no and then refused to serve him. My dad met Keanu Reeves and Morgan Freeman when they were doing research for the movie Chain Reaction. He said Keanu seemed nice but didn't talk to him much. He talked to Morgan Freeman for a while and said Morgan seemed genuinely interested in their conversation and was nice. I haven't met a rude celeb yet. But Stan Lee's security at Calgary Comic Con a few years back was fucking brutal. The guy acted like he was a fucking mercenary. Stan Lee would sit in a chair and you'd come stand next to him for your photo op and Stan let me be pretty well armed one close and his security guard yelled at me and asked Stan if he authorized me to be that close. Even the photographer looked at the security guy like he was crazy lol. But at the same Comic Con, meeting Norman Reedus, Stephen Ewan and Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, was amazing. They're all super awesome and tried to have a legitimate conversation with you. Steve Ewan even complimented my glasses lol 10/10 best con for me. Didn't happen to me. But I had a physics teacher in high school who sat next to Bill Nye on a plane once. Apparently he was super unpleasant to be around. This is the 6th or 7th entry for Nye. I've only met Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future at Universal Studios. It was the end of the day and the park was closing. We were right near the exit and he was just walking through the park to get to one of the sets. I ran up to him. I was 14 at the time. I asked if he was going back to the future. It was also the last ride we were just on, and he's obviously heard that line a million times but he was so nice about it. Got a photo, he said have a great night and thank you. Never been more happy. Thank you. My heart sank in anticipation of his doing something awful. But so happy it wasn't. Used to work at this hotel in San Diego around 2015. The bellman was a Mexican man. Nicest guy and the oldest from the staff. Worked there since the 70s. As a young bellhop. He told me in the old days, Elizabeth Taylor would frequently stay there. And she would always ask for this suite facing the ocean. What she asked, she got. He was awestruck when he first saw her and mentioned in his broken English that she was beautiful. Apparently, she was so offended that she reported him to the general manager. The GM just told him to please not talk to her anymore. Huh. I met Henry Winkler and oh my goodness. The man is just the nicest guy ever. I've loved him since Fonzie and that meeting just solidified his good guy standing with me. He's as sweet and down to earth as he seems. Had to work 3 months on a film with Jim Belushi. I could sense within the first few minutes of being in his presence on set he was an asshole. His behavior deteriorated till the end. He was detested by everyone on the crew including the cast. The movie, Change of Heart, went straight to radio. Jim Belushi is a dickhead supreme.